Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by PointsBet. Use that code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Happy Throwback Thursday. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. Sarah's running the dials for us today back at the CHGO studios, and we appreciate that. As always, lots of stuff to get to, as you always do in a hockey summer, August 18th. We've got Team USA eliminated from the World Junior Championships.
Way to go, Greg.
Oof.
Add it to the list of things that I'm to blame for.
It's like Chris Jericho's scroll of
spoke it into existence.
Yeah, right.
Well, you know,
I think it might be my fault. Because
you guys just brushed past the Czechs like they were nothing, and then that vibe carried over to the Team USA locker room, and now the defending gold medal champs get nothing.
Yeah, that was not good, and we're going to get into that for our Throwback Thursday topic. 26 years ago today, Mario was not born yet, and the Blackhawks.
That's not true.
He was a little tough. He was cute. Jeremy Roenick was traded to the Arizona Coyotes, then the Phoenix Coyotes. Little history lesson for the kids out there. We will get back to that. That'll be the second part of the show, but we've got to remember it is an important moment in Blackhawks history, and I think for fans of a certain age, like Greg and me, maybe a little bit older, it's one of those where were you when this happened sort of moments, and I recall vividly. So we're going to get into that as well. I tagged Jeremy Roenick on the tweet, so maybe he'll show some interest in up on the show. That'd be fun.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
He's not doing much these days.
Get that dumb button ready.
He's probably on the golf. He's probably like
probably golfing
on hole 6 in some golf course right now.
Yeah. Well, that's
chasing snakes or alligators or whatever he does out there.
Yeah, I saw. That's funny you mentioned that because I saw that just happen to JJ Watt had like a rattlesnake in his house. But I remember this on YouTube or Twitter years ago. Roenick had like a rattlesnake in his garage, and I don't know if he got a hockey stick or a golf club and just like hooked it and like yeeted the thing over his fence. He's just very used to getting rid of rattlesnakes.
Didn't he just I feel like there also was a video of him like on a golf course in Florida or something, and he just like jumped on an alligator that was like
a couple years ago
on the course. Like, I don't know, the guy's got a death wish.
Well, that's how he played the game. So
yeah,
he's the same exact guy off the ice as he was on the ice.
Yeah,
never changed, JR.
And he won't.
No, and that's why he's golfing instead of working someplace right now.
Yes, we're being told he will not change. All right, so let's start with Team USA. Really disappointing game, losing to Czechia. A final score was 4-2, right? I know there was an empty netter. Yeah, 4-2 is the final score. And when thinking back on that game, and I know not everybody watched it, so we'll try to catch up as best we can.
I will admit, I went to bed in the first period after the first period.
Well, you know what? You did.
It was Team USA.
Yeah, you didn't miss a thing.
Yeah, it was a late game, so I had to hit the hay.
You had, I think the game. Well, two key things happened in the game. Luke Hughes took. I wouldn't call it knee to knee, but it was like a leg to leg hit.
Yeah,
and clearly was not okay. Went to the bench, went down the tunnel, came back out a little bit later, and you could see when he was skating, he was just not mobile. He was playing at maybe 50%. If that's huge because he's probably their best all-around player.
Yeah.
Then you had Berard with the behind-the-play frustration slew foot that got them a 5-minute major and him thrown out of the game. He's been a spark plug for Team USA throughout the entire tournament. So you're without him. You got Hughes at 50%, and they got out-coached, man. Look, they were talking about it on the broadcast. 4 games were played on that ice surface that day, yesterday. Clearly, the ice was crap. Right. It was an issue, and Team USA had no adjustment to the style of play until late in the third when they finally were like, look, if we're going to score, we're going to have to get pucks on the net and just crash the net as best we can. That's how they got their second goal. But for 2.5 periods, they're trying to dipsy doodle and spin around. It was like a Blackhawks power play. It's like there was no first of all, there's not a lot of urgency. It felt like they were just assuming they were going to win. And then when things started getting late and desperate, they didn't really have an answer. And the Czechs just sat back. You'd see 5 red sweaters in front of the net, like almost like an army, like, screw you, you're not getting past us. And they didn't. It was just a fantastic game for the Czechs. And I think a big missed opportunity for the U.S. because they just refused to adjust.
Yeah, they played well in the first period, and then when they gave up that tying goal late in the first, it was over. Like they didn't bounce back, as you mentioned. They just look like, hey, we're the more talented team, and we're just gonna put our skates on the ice and we'll win because of our talent and not work for it. Where the Czechs were like, no, we're gonna beat your ass and like score dirty goal. And that third goal should have never went in. Awful goal.
Bad goal.
Which turned out to be the game-winning goal. So maybe our buddy Chris Peters was right when he said no Drew Commesso means no medal. That goal should never have gone in from that. It was just a bad goal. And when that went in and it put Czechia up 3-1, it was like, this is over. This team is a dead-ass team right now, and they're not coming back. When they tried, had they started the third period like they finished the third period, maybe they're still playing. But they just figured, we're going to throw our jerseys on the ice, and our sheer talent difference is going to help us, is going to win. And Czechia just said no. As you said, they made Team USA have to work for it, and they didn't want to work for it, and that's why they lost.
Well, and that to me is what is so strange about this game, because what Team USA had shown the entire tournament was that work ethic. They were crippling defense, like, you know what I mean? Like, they were shutting down. Did they give up like 10 power play some like absurd number throughout like 4 games? They give up like 6 power play shots or something remarkable. The defense had been so on point, and it was not there. And this is not like, sometimes these games happen where the better team, which I think if these teams played 10 times, USA would probably win 7 of them, right? Probably. But it was not one of those games where USA played better, but just like the breaks didn't go their way. They were outplayed. They were outplayed for the better part of, what I would say, 50 minutes, 45 minutes at least.
Yeah, I mean, you can't in these kinds of tournaments. We talked about it yesterday. You know, it's one game at this point now, and anything can happen. And I think sometimes in these kinds of tournaments, the most talented team, the team with the highest expectations, is not necessarily the one that always plays in the final or comes away with a gold medal. And we've seen over the years a lot of different times where, you know, a country, not the USA or Canada or Sweden, it has an upset in them. And this year it was Czechia. And I think, Team USA, like you said, you can't just go out there and expect to win just based off of sheer talent. Like through the preliminary round, they had a little bit of a scare late in the game against Sweden, but that game wasn't as close as the 3-2 score would have told you. But they hadn't been tested, and this was the first big test that they were going to face in the tournament, first big adversity, and it seems like they just weren't up to the task at that point.
Yeah, it was very frustrating to watch as a fan. It had the feel of, we saw this a lot from the Blackhawks during the dynasty, where we're just going to keep doing what we always do and hope it works, and if it doesn't, we lose. Like kind of just the lack of wanting to adapt the style to fit the game. And look, the Hawks had 82 games in playoffs to overcome those games that things weren't working during that time. But when it's a one and done, that's it. It's over. They don't get another chance. And I really, the Berard thing really bugs me, because it was so selfish and so dumb. It was not one of those part of the play, like this just happened and it kind of looked like a slew foot. This was an intentional behind the play, grab the guy, put your foot behind him and pull him back and hope you don't get caught and you're out for the game. So you got one guy playing 50% in Hughes, and you've got Berard gone.
You're basically down 2 players.
Yeah. By the way, I want to shout out the son of very selfish for sure. The son of former Blackhawk Jaroslav Spacek, David Spacek, plays for Czechia. Dude can play. Yeah. He was one of their better players throughout the game. He doesn't look as much like a cat as his father does, which was a little bit disappointing. Like if Dan Aykroyd and a cat mated in Jaroslav Spacek, David looks much less feline than his father did, which was a disappointment, but he's still a really solid player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we do have 2 Blackhawks prospects still
going.
Victor Schornberg was actually the player of the game for Sweden, even despite not picking up a point. But that shows you like how his game is. Very effective. Didn't get on the score sheet, but they beat Latvia 2-1 in a very close game. Tip of the cap to the Latvian team, who wasn't even supposed to be in this tournament. The only reason they were there is because Russia was told to stay home and play soldier. And, they weren't supposed to be there. They upset Czechia to get to even qualify for the medal round. And then they nearly pulled off an upset against Sweden. They were there the whole game. It was just 2-1. So tip of the cap to them with no relegation. They'll be back. They wouldn't have been relegated anyway, but they'll be back in December. The December tournament. I think they've got like 16 players returning from that team, so
it's pretty good.
Maybe they're a team to make a little noise. And then of course, Canada. They'll play Czechia now, I believe, with the reseeding. And Ethan Del Mastro, man, he's making a difference. He had a huge hit. There was a play where Ridley Craig was hit behind the play and injured himself, and DeMastro remembered what number it was and then put him into the 9th row of the seats. That's what he's been doing this tournament. He's been destroying dudes left and right. We didn't expect him to really play much. Didn't play in the first preliminary game, and he's been a staple in the lineup ever since. And he's playing in elimination games and making a difference. That's huge. And this is a kid that I think in training camp is going to make the Blackhawks at least think for a minute about maybe giving him 8 games before sending him back to the juniors. Who knows? You never know. He's going to make them think hard about what they want to do. I don't think there's any way he's on the Blackhawks this season. Maybe a splash at the end of the year, but he's going to make that decision a little harder than it probably should be.
Yes, I have the feeling he's going to get some pretty decent preseason action just to have the Blackhawks give him an opportunity to kind of show what he can do at a more professional level. But yeah, he stood out to us at prospect camp. I assume he's going to be at the rookie showcase in September leading into training camp. Yeah, I mean, he's talk about making the most of an opportunity. He was an injury replacement with Team Canada, and then just kind of played, got an opportunity to get into the lineup in the preliminary round and played well enough that, he's stuck in the lineup. So good on him. I think, what we've seen from him in this tournament is that physical side of him for how young he is to be able to kind of play a more like physically mature game is really impressive. And he's been bringing that to the Canadian roster. So yeah, it'll be a fun one. I think it's Canada, Czechia, and Sweden and Finland in the semifinals.
Rivals, big
Go
rivals.
Finland.
Yeah, Sweden, Finland. That'll be a good game.
Finland, so we can get more videos of the Prime Minister of Finland dancing with her friends. That will never get old.
I saw that last night. What is happening with that? Like
she's just
out partying.
That's what she does.
She's amazing.
She's a young, attractive woman who likes to go to music festivals and let loose, and like it's not affecting her job at all. I don't think anybody in Finland is upset.
Well, she doesn't wear a tan suit. She'll be fine.
Right. No, Finland, they don't care about stuff like that because everybody else in Finland is going to music festivals and dancing with their friends. So, she's just fitting in.
Interesting.
Yes. So good stuff. And the semifinals today, is that correct? Tomorrow. They give him a day off. All right. Let that ice recover.
I think Canada is the afternoon game, and then Sweden, Finland, I believe, is the night game.
Wow, they didn't put Canada in prime time. I'm kind of surprised.
I don't know.
Well, it's a Saturday. It doesn't matter. This is Saturday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Friday.
I am so screwed. Yeah, I have no idea what day. Ever since this job started, I have no idea what day it is anymore.
Oh, it's only going to get better during the season when we're like, time?
It's just during the season. It's just going to be: is it a game day, a practice day, or do I actually get to sleep for a change?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Can't
All right,
wait.
before we get to Jeremy Roenick, the little bit of news here, the Blackhawks made the signing we talked about yesterday, forward Cole Guttman, 2-year entry-level contract, runs through 2023-24, $950,000 cap hit. He set career highs in goals, assists, and points during the 21-22 season at the University of Denver. So he was originally drafted by the Lightning in 2017 as a 6th-round pick. Lightning did not sign him, so he became a free agent, and the Hawks scooped him up. So Cole Guttman is in the fold, and someone will probably see get a look in camp. Kind of on that, like, I don't know, would you call it like the Ben Smith trajectory, the Tanner Caro trajectory?
Yeah.
The older free agent college guy who can
college free agent. He'll get an opportunity I'm sure play in the rookie showcase, play in training camp, and see what he can do, and probably ends up in Rockford for the entire season. Who knows? But I mean, it seems like he seems like the direction that Kyle Davidson is trying to go with some of these more minor league signings, I guess. And what the organization is trying to do is have a focus on character. And Guttman was the team captain at Denver this past season, national champions. So getting a guy like that into the organization, I don't think is a bad thing whatsoever. Give the kid a chance. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah, and that's Davidson had a little quote in the press release that came out this morning along those lines. As you mentioned, he was the captain for the Denver Pioneers, and they won the NCAA national championship, the 9th in team school history, tying an NCAA record. Davidson had this to say: Cole's game has progressed during his time with the University of Denver, and we're looking forward to continuing that development within our organization. Captaining his team to a championship last season demonstrates his leadership and commitment on the ice, and those are the qualities we're always looking for in our players. So a no risk, high reward type of move. At worst case scenario, he's a contributor on the Rockford Ice Hogs playoff team, hopefully this year and next year. Best case scenario, he's a 4th liner contributing. He's a Mackenzie Entwistle, Josiah Slavin type of player that get you those minutes that somebody has to play up here at this NHL level. So another body, another potential contributor down the road.
No doubt. Can't have too many of those. All right, we're going to get to our Throwback Thursday topic next. Reminder, if you're in the YouTube chat, smash that like button, dab that like button, do all those cool things that all the kids do on YouTube. And a reminder, too, if you're listening on the audio-only version, make sure not only are you listening to the podcast, but that you're also subscribed wherever you listen. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podomatic, Podbean.biz, whatever it is, you hit that follow button, you subscribe, and turn on those notifications too, so you know as soon as a new episode is out. And we want to remind you that PointsBet Sportsbook is counting down the days until the football season with a new offer every day until the season kicks off. From now until September 8th, PointsBet Power Hour will unlock a new daily offer from noon to 1 p.m. Central. So sign up for Sportsbook for PointsBet Sportsbook now using the code CHGO to also get risk-free bets up to $2,000. Don't miss out on your chance to get daily access to free bets, boosted odds, and so much more now through September 8th. But that's not it. If you make a $51 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership that gets you all of our great web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker, like my CHGO Fire shirt I'm wearing now. Download the PointsBet app today and use code CHGO to take advantage of this limited time offer. Don't just bet, live your bet life with PointsBet. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services.
And we are brought to you by our friends at Athletic Greens and their AG1 formula, which is designed to improve your gut health, optimize your immune system, and give you more natural energy. I had my AG1 this morning, feeling good. 1 scoop of AG1 in a cup of water each day. That's all it is. And in that scoop, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. If you have different dietary restrictions for whatever reason, if it's gluten-free, dairy-free, keto, paleo, vegan, all those other eating pathways, you're good to go with AG1. It fits into all of those restrictions and whatnot, easy to incorporate into your life no matter how busy you might be. And right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/CHGO Blackhawks to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right. Oh, yeah.
I got one thing to add before we get into the
just one more
maybe
thing.
Pleasant conversation or not. If you don't follow the CHGO Blackhawks Twitter account just yet, please.
What are you doing?
We have a goal. We want to get to 6,000 followers before opening night. So we put a plea out to you guys, and you guys have been coming through. Since we mentioned it yesterday, in the last 24 hours, we've gained over 100 followers. We're up over 4,700 followers right now. So 13 more days like yesterday, and we'll be at our goal. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, please do so. CHGO_Blackhawks. And if you have a Blackhawks or just NHL fan in your circle of friends or family that will enjoy the coverage here, let them know. Have them follow us as well. Help us get to 6,000 followers by opening night. I think we can hit that goal. No problem.
That'd be awesome.
So, thanks to all of our new followers and all of our old followers as well. We wouldn't be able to sit here in our homes talking about hockey in the middle of the day in August if it wasn't for you guys watching. So we appreciate it.
And in real time, we just got a new follower.
There you go. See that? Thank you, B Phillips 3600.
There you
get
go.
Mention on air when you follow live.
Not to be confused with the other 3,599 B Phillipses.
Right.
That's
Is that
right.
Brendan Phillips, Mr. Jade Cargill? That'd be cool.
I wonder, is there a way to know like who is the precise like the 6,000th follower?
I mean, if we stare at it at 5,999 and then wait for the next follower.
Yeah. I'm not really interested in doing that. I was going to say we could send them a shirt or something, but that's not fair to the people that were there first.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll
Screw
see.
that guy.
We'll figure something out.
All right. Where were you on August 16th? Where were you the night of August 16th, 1996? Were you trading Jeremy Roenick? Oh, God.
Probably getting ready for first grade.
Sarah puts the graphic up on the screen if you're on the YouTube. Written by Casey Johnson.
Hey.
Which is awesome.
Let's go.
The Chicago Tribune. Casey Johnson had the story.
Goes to show that like the hockey beat is like the launching pad to other things in careers. At least it used to be. Yeah. Not here at CHGO. We cover hockey because we want to.
Yeah, I'm looking at this story here. Keep this up on the screen here, Sarah. This is great. Some of the quotes on here. Hawks coach Craig Hartsburg. There are not many centers that has the skill that Jamnov does. Oh, God. This is painful. And you guys know, I am a Alexei Jamnov fan. Good player. But the trade officially was Jeremy Roenick to the Coyotes for right winger Craig Mills, obviously center Alexei Jamnov, and a first-round pick in the 1997 NHL draft. That pick was Ty Jones, who was supposed to be a stud and never played. So the fact that pick completely busted out made this a lot worse.
It did.
But this was the first time as a hockey fan for me that I had my heart ripped out of my chest. It wouldn't be the last, but it was the first. Because I have to say, like, I became a big Hawks fan, like a diehard Hawks fan, after the Cup loss to the Penguins. I sort of casually watched that and then was like, well, that was awesome. So I'm going to really get into hockey. And that's kind of what started it. So that loss didn't like crush me like it would have now. So Roenick being traded to the Coyotes was that was the first nad kicking I took from the Blackhawks of many. That was painful.
And it was the start of the complete disassembly. Yeah, like, it wasn't much longer after this that Ed Belfour was gone. Then Chris Chelios was gone. And it was like anybody that was any good that wanted a penny raise on their contract was traded for scraps.
Yeah.
But out of all those trades in the late 90s, this one was the best return for the Blackhawks. And you mentioned that 1997 draft that pick of Ty Jones. It was the second of 2 pick. That 1997 draft was not good. Like we talked the other day, like who could they have picked instead? Ty Jones was the second of 2 first-round picks for the Hawks. They picked Daniel Cleary with their own pick, 13th overall.
Not a first-round pick, but not a bad player.
Right. But when you look at the rest of that first round, there really isn't. That wasn't a whole lot. Like
No.
I'm scrolling through these names and I don't even recognize like most of these names. A lot of these guys never made it to the NHL. Interesting. It was a top heavy draft. Joe Thornton.
Hang on. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
1 pick before Dan Cleary.
I was getting there.
All right, I'll let you get there on your own.
Yes. Number 1 overall was Joe Thornton to the Boston Bruins. Number 2 overall was Patrick Marleau to the San Jose Sharks. And of course, those 2 guys became longtime teammates.
Yeah.
Which was fun.
Good careers. Good careers.
Yeah,
decent.
Oh, yeah, those guys were okay. Joe Thornton, is he on a team? Is he still staying with Florida?
Florida, I believe.
Yeah, so he's still playing, kind of, sort of.
Could be wrong. Let me check.
Olli Jokinen was number 3. The
Good
subject
player.
of my favorite hockey gift of all time, the Olli Jokinen waffle gif, is the greatest.
Yes.
It's the greatest thing in hockey.
That is good. That is good.
If you've never seen it, just Google Olli Jokinen waffles and just play it on a loop for like 40 minutes. Your day will be infinitely better. Roberto Luongo went 4th to the New York Islanders. He had a pretty decent career.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and the Blackhawks ended up having 4 of the top 13 picks eventually play for them. Daniel Cleary at 13th. Sergei Samsonov went 8th to the Boston Bruins. He eventually became a Blackhawk. The 9th pick overall was defenseman Nick Boynton.
Mm-hmm.
And then 12th overall, 1 pick ahead of Daniel Cleary and the Blackhawks, some guy named Marian Hossa was drafted by the Ottawa Senators. Talk about if you ever do redrafts of drafts. Hossa, does he go number 1 overall ahead of Thornton and Marleau?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I would say so.
So yeah, eventually 4 of the top 13 picks of that 1997 draft all played for the Blackhawks. But you know, that draft was weak, and you know, man, what did I just had a brain fart, but you know, the Coyotes, that was their first year in Phoenix. They had moved from Winnipeg, the original Jets, to Phoenix that off season. So they wanted to make a big splash. They wanted to do something to get people excited. And Jeremy Roenick was a superstar at that point. And they traded away a very good player and Alex Jamnoff. But when you looked at like some of those Jets teams of the early 90s, they had Jamnoff, Keith Tkachuk, and Teemu Selanne all on the same team, and they never made it out of the first round of the playoffs. So they needed to make a change, and they went to get Jeremy Roenick. Selanne was already gone at that point, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they had to do something. Like, hey, Teemu Selanne, this amazing player, is no longer here. We're moving to a new market. Let's go get a name that's going to sell tickets. And it worked out pretty good for both sides. We'll get to it at the end. But in the end, I think the Blackhawks statistically got the better end of this trade,
which is amazing, right? When you really think about it. But you know, it's cool for not an expansion team, but a team that's moving to a new market to come in day one with Roenick and Tkachuk. I mean, that's two
pretty big.
High profile American born in their prime stud hockey players. Not just that are really good, but are also like good personalities.
Mm-hmm.
That was for Phoenix. That was a no-brainer.
It's like Fleury going to Vegas. Like,
yes,
huge impact right away.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, you know. I was thinking about this as you were going over the draft. Like, had the Hawks drafted Hossa, you know, there would have been like a contract dispute, and
it never would have happened. He would have been traded in 1999 to you know, the Montreal Canadiens for some bum, and we never would have had those 3 cups. So
now
it worked out.
you'd also never have Kane or Taves, and it's the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
The entire trajectory of the franchise is completely different with that.
The Blackhawks got Marian Hossa when they were supposed to get him. It was fate.
At the most opportune time.
Yes.
Speaking of butterfly effect, I came across this trying to do some research into this trade and timeline to get a little bit more familiar with it, because I never paid attention to it when it happened. Obviously, I was 6 years old. But to get some context to it, but this is interesting. This is from a few years ago with the Athletics' Mark Lazarus. He spoke with former Blackhawks GM Mike Smith, and he told him a story about how Smith's successor Bob Pulford almost traded Duncan Keith in a package to the Philadelphia Flyers to get Roenick and Tony Amani back to the Blackhawks. The only reason it didn't happen was because the 2004-05 season lockout froze the rosters. How about that?
If I'm not mistaken, I need to remember this. If it was, hold on, I'm going back to my book to remember what I wrote. Did Pulford call Duncan Keith the worst pick in franchise history, or was that Dustin Byfuglien? I think it was Keith.
I can't remember.
I
mean, might
talk
have
amongst yourselves.
I mean, yeah, I that sounds familiar. I feel like I have heard that comment before regarding Keith. But obviously that did not end up being anything remotely true. But yeah, I mean, that's crazy to think, Duncan Keith may have never been a Chicago Blackhawk, and Jeremy Roenick and Tony Amani would have come back at some point. Crazy.
I'm still looking for this. Sorry. Oh my God, I gotta find this. Oh, here. Okay, it's the Bob Pulford chapter. Hold on.
There you go.
Okay. Yes.
While we're
I found it. All right, here.
Oh, he found
okay.
it. Here's
so this
Ole Jokinen looking at a waffle. Anyways,
good. Oh, that's more
there
important. I'm gonna go back. Yeah, it's great. Okay, so this is about Dustin Byfuglien. Okay, not everybody at the Blackhawks liked Dustin. Mike Smith wrote. Bob Pulford, the senior VP of hockey, growled by the end of the week that Dustin was, quote, the second worst player ever drafted by the Hawks. Dustin couldn't be the worst pick ever because Pulford had already awarded that distinction to Duncan Keith.
Yeah, and we kept bringing this boob back to we kept giving him positions of power,
I'm very impressed that I remembered both parts of that quote.
That was great.
That it was Byfuglien was second worst and Keith was the worst. I saw Bob Pulford like 2 years ago.
Freezing cold takes.
It could have been 2 years ago. Maybe. Well, I don't know. One time recently, I was at the United Center because time is a flat circle.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Bob Pulford like walking the hallways with an ID badge around him. I'm like, no, go back to wherever you were. No. You can't be here, sir. Get out, get out. Oh man, it was brutal. But let's talk about Roenick a little bit, because I think, for again, guys like me and Greg and people our age and slightly older, like, to me, that was the dude who made me a Hawks fan. He was the coolest hockey player, just in an era where, being brash and like being a rock and roll, you know what I mean? Like, it was the hair metal era, and Jeremy Roenick was like hair metal on ice. He was Bon Jovi or Poison on ice, and it was just, he was brash, he was cocky, he was physical, he scored highlight reel goals, he would bleed all the time, his teeth would fly out. Like, he was just everything you wanted your player to be. Jeremy Roenick was that. He pissed people off. He would drop the gloves now and again. He was just, for a kid my age at that time, there was no cooler player. And we've talked about this a few times over the last few weeks. NHL 94 was such a huge gateway into the NHL for people.
Yeah.
And he was so, if you've seen the scene in Swingers, you know what we're talking about. Roenick was he was a cheat code. He was like Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl, or later like Michael Vick in Madden, where you almost couldn't let people play with the Blackhawks because Roenick was that good. He was just a freaking rock star. And that was the dude. Like, to me, there will never be a cooler hockey player than Jeremy Roenick. And yeah, I'm a little like bummed out by some of the things that have happened with him recently, and some of the lack of, I guess you would call, like, inward reflection on things he said and things he's done and all those sort of things. Like, look, people change and evolve over time. And I think if you were to follow along most 90s hockey teams during the 90s with a camera, you'd see some pretty horrible crap from most of them. But I think people evolve and people change. And I would like to see a little more from that from JR. But as hockey players go, Hossa was like different. Hossa was like a deity, you know. Roenick was just a down and dirty badass and just exactly what you wanted your guy to be. And the picture Sarah's got up there from the 75th anniversary team, a photo forever ruined by Chris Chelios in a Red Wings jersey. The JR, man, just like before Hockey Face took over, a good-looking dude. The ladies loved him. Men wanted to be him. He was just the coolest, and it was impossible not to love Jeremy Roenick. And he made being a Hawks fan cool.
Yeah, he had. Oh, go ahead, Mario.
Go ahead, Greg.
All right, he had that attitude though. Like he was loudmouth and cocky, but backed it up.
Yep.
Like he wasn't one of these guys that just ran his mouth and then when the moment came was nowhere to be found. He would tell you he was going to score 2 goals on you, score 2 goals on you, and then remind you that he scored 2 goals on you on the way off the ice. Like, and then say, guess what? I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And then if he embodied like that era NHL. He had the shot. He had the skating ability. He was an all-world offensively talented player. But he would get dirty when he needed to. He would get into a fight. He would get bloodied. He would lose a tooth. He would throw a punch. He would, throw an elbow to the face if he had to. Like he had that embodiment of what, Blackhawks fans wanted in their players. He was a great offensive player, but he also was a badass and was not afraid to mix it up. And that's why he was so popular here, because he had that cocky attitude. He had that physical play. But then he backed it up with his offensive production. At least here in Chicago, it took a dip once he left, but that style of play caught up with him as well.
Well, you mentioned backing it up, and everyone remembers Patrick Waugh, talking crap to Roenick, saying, "I can't hear what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings in my ears," which is you can't recover from a burn like that. Like,
nah,
he's right, but Roenick was the first one with shots fired, so. In the series, and so what actually turned out to be Roenick's last series as a Hawk in the 96 Western Conference semifinals against the Avalanche, Roenick had a breakaway and was pulled down, and there was no penalty shot called. And Patrick Waugh was like, it didn't matter. There was no call. I would have stopped him anyway. So Roenick says, yeah, there should have been a penalty shot called. No doubt about it. I like Patrick's quote that he would have stopped me. I just want to know where he was in game 3, probably getting his jock out of the rafters at the United Center. So that's that's the quote that actually led up to the Stanley Cup the Stanley Cup rings in my ears quote from Waugh. 2 guys that just personify 90s hockey, Jeremy Roenick and Patrick Waugh. And, they're cool and they're flawed. Both guys have their flaws and you've heard stuff about them more recently. It's like, but I wouldn't, it's a shame that Jeremy Roenick did not finish his career as a Hawk.
Yeah.
It's just, if there's one guy, that's the one.
And it's a testament to what he meant to the team and the fan base at the time, and still does to a huge chunk of the fan base who saw him play and saw him as a Blackhawk. You still see 27 Roenick jerseys at the United Center a bunch, and I always remember watching the broadcast of the 2010 Stanley Cup final when the Blackhawks won, him like getting emotional and choked up because it was the Blackhawks, and you saw how much it meant to him even still that he played for Chicago and was beloved in the city, and to take it back to the trade, it never really doesn't seem like something that when you look back at how he talks about having played for the Blackhawks and leaving the team and whatnot, it doesn't seem like he actually, go back to that article. It says it's like, oh, Jeremy made up his mind that he didn't want to be in Chicago or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. You see him talk about the Blackhawks, his time with them, and it just kind of comes off that he never really wanted to leave. So, yeah, I just that's one thing for me. A non Jeremy Roenick playing the game memory that I have is that emotional time for him after the 2010 Cup. And when they brought him back for his one last shift, his skate around the ice, kissing center ice and whatnot. I mean, it's just he wanted to be a Blackhawk, and like you said, like one guy to play his career in Chicago entirely and finish it with the Blackhawks. I mean, for me, I can't think of a better one in at least the last 30, 40 years.
What about Jonathan Taves?
Yeah,
we have plenty of time to talk about
We'll
that.
talk about that, in a few months. Yeah.
By the way, I got a quote here from Jeremy's book. If you want to read another hockey book, you can. But
his first book is really entertaining.
Probably the one thing that's a downer in my career, or is one of my regrets, is that I didn't play my whole career in Chicago. I couldn't imagine what my life would be right now if that had happened.
Yeah.
Well, that was what made this trade a lot tougher for Hawks fans to accept. Was Jeremy didn't want to go anywhere. This wasn't him leaving free agency for a bigger payday. This wasn't him holding out and saying, trade me now, making a demand. He didn't want to go anywhere. He just wanted to be paid eventually what he was worth.
$4.5 million is what he wanted.
Yeah. And Bill Wirtz had wanted nothing to do with that. No way. And so he took his most popular player and traded him because he didn't want to pay him. Something that he did dozens of times.
And at the time, no salary cap.
Yeah. I mean,
so no reason not to do it if you really wanted to do it.
And this was the beginning of the end for the Hawks in the Bill Wirtz era, because again, as I mentioned, it was the next season at Belfour. Same reason. Wanted to get paid. He was coming to the end of his contract. They weren't going to re-sign him, and they traded him for a bunch of crap, like nothing. Guys that weren't even on the team the following season.
Ulf Dallin, Michael Sikora, and Chris Terreri.
Yeah. As I said, a bunch of crap.
Not that I remember off the top.
Not that I can. You tell that I'm still? Can you tell that I'm still angry about that trade? That trade pissed me off more than all of them. Because at least with Roenick, you got a first-round pick and Alexei Zhamnov, who turned out to be a very good player for them for 8 seasons.
Captain.
But that Belfour trade was for just crap. I'm gonna keep censoring myself. And then Chris Chelios, again, traded for nothing. Traded for some big young defenseman who was supposed to be good, who turned out to be a complete hack and should have never played hockey ever. So the Roenick was the beginning of the end for the Bill Wirtz era. That's where he decided. That's when he started to say the quiet parts out loud, and just you could tell he didn't give a rat's ass about the success of this team. And the Blackhawks fans, this is gonna sound terrible, but it's the God's honest truth. The Jeremy Roenick trade was when we all just started to count the days until this guy died and got out of there. Because that's what it was. Those last few years is like you check the obituary. Oh, damn, Bill Wirtz is still alive. It sounds terrible, but man, when he died, I remember the day he died, and I remember high-fiving other Blackhawks fans being like, I feel bad for the family, but as a Blackhawks fan, good riddance.
It was an awkward place to be. I remember Mike North on the Score started his show with Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. From Wizard of Oz when Bill Wirtz died. It's like, Jesus.
I mean, it's hard to feel.
I mean,
like
you can't.
From all accounts, Bill Wirtz was not a great guy.
When you get booed,
at least in a business standpoint.
When you get booed at your funeral.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to feel bad. I mean, yes, it was somebody's father and brother and son and all that stuff and a family man. But I'm not part of the Wirtz family. And at that point, I was an angry, bitter Blackhawks fan and was like, goodbye.
We've got some breaking hockey news. Kevin Weeks on top of it. Nazem Kadri is did you guys see it yet?
No. I'm assuming an Islander.
Calgary Flame.
Wow, that came out of nowhere.
Take that, Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah, you old, weird, crotchety dude.
Everyone was just assuming Islanders, and I guess from what I see, our buddy James Nickel, who joined us to talk Barry Trotz earlier in the summer, says the Islanders just weren't able to make the money work. Kevin Weeks, it looks like, was first with the story. Elliot Friedman confirming. It looks like Nazem Kadri will be a Calgary Flame. I don't see any terms just yet.
Same team.
Do we have terms and money or no?
7-year deal according to Darren Dreger. Do not see any dollars just yet.
7 years for a 31-year-old
years old. Ooh.
Well, you know what? They're going for it. The Flames know, this is their window.
They knew they screwed up by not being able to sign Gaudreau and then having to trade Tkachuk, but they've reloaded with Huberdeau, Weegar, and now Kadri. They're a team that's going to have to win either this year or next year with Daryl Sutter, because if they don't win one in the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to get ugly real quick. It's going to be Vegas Golden Knights Part 2.
Yeah, well, it might be, but if they win a cup, though, it's worth it, right?
It doesn't matter, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Right.
And
you have to win that cup.
We talked about the West being like pretty much Colorado. Whenever on Mailbag Monday, somebody asked who are the other teams in the West, and it's kind of like there's a big blob of others. And I think Calgary
throwing their hat in the ring. There's no doubt about that.
Calgary adding Kadri makes them, I think, probably second to Colorado in the West, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Boy, it's crazy to think you lose Gaudreau and Tkachuk, you get Huberdeau, you get Weegar, and now you get Kadri, and it's a step down, but it's not as drastic as it feels, especially in the short term.
Might be a better playoff team this year than they were with those two guys long term. You'd rather have Gaudreau and Tkachuk for the next 7 years, but right now, Calgary's better than Columbus, where Gaudreau is, and Calgary is better than Florida, where Tkachuk is, at least for this upcoming season. What happens later, don't know. But Calgary said, hey, what's the best way to make our fans forget that we had to give away these two young players? Not give away, but we had to say goodbye to two talented young players. Win a freaking cup.
Yeah,
that will make fans forgive you real quick.
It's tough because from all reports, Calgary did everything they were supposed to do for Gaudreau and Tkachuk. They were offering the money and given what they were worth, and it was just they just didn't want to be there. And they're what can a team do about that, right?
Right.
What they can do is get a really solid return in the Tkachuk trade, which they did, and then go bring back, free agents to help, they brought some other players, and I haven't looked recently, but it wasn't just those three, I didn't think. But they're going to be all right.
Had a few other.
They've got a shot. They really do.
The other part of Weeks' information is that they're going to be needing to move Sean Monahan. So that's interesting.
That's really interesting.
He's got on a 1 year deal, 6.3 million, 1 year deal, and he does not play up to that 6.3 million. Modified no trade clause. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think to make the money work, you got to move out a contract like that. So I know Windy City Hockey here in the chat saying that Blackhawks maybe. I don't think so.
I'm just
does nothing.
Unless they're going to be
you're getting too close to being a middle team, and that's not what you want.
Yep.
No. Unless you don't want Sean Monahan with a chip on his shoulder looking to play for another contract on your team. It's and you could say, we could get their first round pick. Do they have one? I don't know. I have a feeling they gave something up in a trade. And even if they do, the way they're building this, it's going to be a late pick. I know the draft. I don't think they have a first round pick next year.
I'm looking right now.
For some reason, I think they gave it up in a trade. Unless they get one back from.
They do. They do have a first round pick next year.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought Calgary might have been one of those teams that's they only have one first in the next 4 years or something.
No, they've got they have actually one next year, one in 2024, and two in 2025. So they're not in terrible shape there. But you're starting to talk about. Yeah, maybe the Hawks could take on an asset to take Monahan, but the team's going to be too good. And the point now is you're looking at Bedard or Fantilli or Michkov, and I think bringing in Monahan probably makes you too good.
The contract you take on from Calgary and get an asset along with it is Milan Lucic. It's not Sean Monahan. So I don't think Lucic really moves your needle and upsets your chances at a top 3 pick as much as Monahan would. Now, granted, Monahan's been very disappointing. That's why they want to trade him in the first place. But he's a guy, again, that if he comes into this season looking to prove it, to get another free agent contract, he might be a guy that's just too counterproductive for what you're trying to accomplish this season.
I'm just going to go on the record. I don't want them to add anyone that can help from this point forward. I know Jack Johnson is bad by every measure, but no, we are dangerously flirting with being just like slightly, just slightly terrible instead of absolutely terrible.
Right.
And I don't like that. No
Mhm.
more. Like, unless someone's like, here's multiple first and prospects to take on the shit contract. Okay.
Mhm.
Right. Like, if it's something that's going to completely revamp your organization, cool. But I don't want to get out of the top 3 this year.
Yeah. Or take a prospect to take an LTIR type of player. Like, that's the move you make.
But that's doable. That's the sort of thing.
That's what you do. You take on a bad contract for a guy that's not going to play and get a draft pick or a prospect with. So
is Pavel Datsyuk still available?
I don't know. Did he ever leave that monastery or wherever the heck he was? Remember that weird ass story that came out a couple years ago? Whew, CTE is a thing, folks.
William O'Brien says they need to bring back Probert. I would assume that would be one of those LTIR situations we're talking about.
I don't think he's available.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
Last time I checked, still deceased and unavailable to play next season.
And Narfin says, so no Phil Kessel? No. I'm sorry. It's painful.
Phil Kessel does not make you any better.
I don't know. It's better.
He was on the Coyotes, and the Coyotes were worse than the Blackhawks last year.
But it's better. He's just better by being there. It's him or Reese Johnson.
He scored 8 goals last season.
He had 8 goals in 82 games last year. 8.
I'm scared.
That's
he's gonna have the
more
power.
Than all of us.
He's gonna have the power of beef juice in his skates, and I'm not here for that. It's gonna be too good.
Not gonna happen. He's gonna get his record. He's gonna get his record and be like, deuces.
All right. Let's wrap things up. I know we've got our points bet play of the week this week. Let's do it.
All right. I know Mario's been on a hot streak, but we kind of did this behind the curtain. We did this at the very last second per usual. But I'm going to actually be a company man, and I'm going to throw some money on that big time preseason tilt between the Chicago Bears and the Seattle Seahawks. That is actually tonight. I didn't realize that game was tonight.
Tonight.
Yeah, but I'm putting money on the money line. Just going nice and simple. Bears plus 150 on the money line is the points bet play of the week. They are a preseason juggernaut after dominating the Kansas City Chiefs last weekend. The Seahawks without Russell Wilson, they're looking to take a step backwards. What am I?
Jake Locker is their quarterback.
It's a preseason game. I'm not going to try and even it now. I just looked at the one bet that actually had plus odds, and I went with that. But this is just an opportunity for us to remind you that CHGO Bears will have live post game after tonight's game. I believe our buddy Nick Moreno is actually in Seattle for the game. I saw some pictures. Yeah. I saw some pictures of him from O'Hare Airport. I'm assuming he's going to Seattle and not on vacation. So
tell him to get a SEDO while he's out there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Maybe Nick Moreno joining the Kraken as well. We don't know for sure. We'll know. Everybody else is from Chicago. Why not him? So
STLE. How would it be in Seattle if we did a all city? STTL.
Yeah. Seat. The
settle.
Seat.
I just really want to expand the Boston, so we're BSTN just to confuse everybody.
Yeah, that's close enough. But yeah, so 150 plus 150 Bears on the money line. That's our points bet play of the week. Watch the Bears preseason and then head over to the YouTube channel, CHGO Sports, and check out our Bears crew for your live post game. They'll break it down for you. They'll tell you which one of these guys that actually had big games in the second half might be players and which are guys that are like, eh.
Yes. All right. That'll be fun. Couple housekeeping notes for everyone listening. Beginning Monday, so tomorrow's show, we are audio only. We're going to record around 10 a.m., so look for it around 11:30 or noon. But starting next week, our showtime changes to 1:30 p.m. Central Time. So we won't be on at 11 anymore. We'll be on at 1:30 as the Bears shift their daily show to noon. So we're going to have a really nice lead-in starting next week. So set your reminders. We're going to be at 1:30 every day until the season begins. Then we'll start our kind of,
chaos,
same day, all that sort of stuff thing.
Fluctuating schedule.
Yeah, but until the season begins, 1:30 p.m. Central on YouTube. Make sure you smash that like button on the YouTube page. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube page and on your podcast app. If it's Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, whatever you use to listen to your podcast, make sure you're subscribed. Turn on those notifications. You can do notifications like on a podcast per podcast basis. So it doesn't have to be every podcast you're subscribed to, just your favorites. So subscribe to this and all the great CHGO sports podcasts we have every pro team in Chicago is represented. I know we've got a Bulls and Sky co-podcast coming up. So make sure you're subscribed to those. The Sky are in the playoffs right now, so you're going to want to listen to CHGO Sky. There's so much great stuff going on at CHGO Sports. Make sure you're a part of it. Join us at allchgo.com. Become a member, get a t-shirt, all that great stuff. So we'll talk to you audio only on Friday. Look for us around 11:30 or 12. And then reminder, next week we start our new time of 1:30 Monday through Thursday. So for Greg and Mario, I'm Jay. Thanks to Sarah for running the show today. This has been the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.